would you pray with me as we consecrate these elements? Oh God, you have blessed us in so many ways. You have come to be part of our lives in so many different ways. You sent your Son that he might lead us, that he might come into our lives, that he might die for us, that he might rise for us. Bless this bread and this wine that we take. Make them be for us the body and blood of Christ, that we might know of his struggle for us and his redemption of us. Make us one with Christ, one with each other, and one in ministry to all the world. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
My name is Simon Peter. One morning, not that long ago, my partners and I were cleaning our nets after a long, hard night of fishing. We were tired and discouraged, for we had caught nothing. Jesus was there teaching to the many that followed him from here to there. They hung on his every word, and that morning he asked if he could sit in my boat. My boat. So I rowed him out a little way so that his voice would carry. And he, as he began teaching, and when he finished teaching, he asked if I would row out a little farther into the deep and put out our nets again. And I told him it was pointless. We had fished all night and caught nothing. But I did as he asked. And amazingly, so many fish that as we began to pull in our nets began to break. So many fish that when we put them in our boat, both boats began to sink under the weight of them. I fell on my knees before the Lord, humbled and ashamed at my lack of faith. And he told me that morning that I would no longer catch fish, but I would catch men. I didn't know exactly what he meant, but I left my boats, I left our catch, I left my livelihood, I left everything to follow Jesus, and I have never looked back. Tonight, he tells us that one of his faithful 12, one of these men will deny him. I told him I would follow him even unto death. He looked me straight in the eye and said, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Deny him. Am I not the rock he called me to be? Am I too weak to be faithful in the things that he has called me to do? Is it I, Lord?
I've been known as Peter's little brother Andrew since the day I was born. Years ago, I too left the fishing business to follow that fiery preacher, John the Baptizer. He had been anointed by God to prepare the way for the Messiah, and now I follow him. I love to bring people to Jesus. I brought my brother to Jesus, and have watched him grow and become a strong leader amongst us. I brought the little boy with the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes to Jesus. I've even brought Gentiles to meet the Master, for he is open and loving to anyone who is searching for the truth. But tonight he speaks of but Jesus has enemies in high places, enemies who would love to silence him or even see him die. And tonight he even speaks of a betrayer in our very midst. Please don't let it be me who would bring sorrow to my Master. Jesus, is it I?
I am James the Lesser, known as such for my stature, and to differentiate myself from all the other men named James. Since joining Jesus' group of followers, I have seen the most miraculous things. He has the power over the seas. Even the wind and the rain obey his voice. He has the power over demons. He has cast away evil spirits and given us the power to do so in his name. He has the power of healing. He has cured diseases that people have suffered with for years, even from birth. And beyond this, he has the power to forgive sins. And now, one of these men at this dinner table, who eats and drinks with him, will betray him? How can they not know he's the Lord, our Messiah? After walking and talking with him, after seeing the prophecies fulfilled, miracle after miracle, proof after proof, he has asked each of us to follow. How could anyone turn away? Is it I?
Is it I? My name is James. John is my younger brother. We used to work with Peter and Andrew in the fishing industry. Jesus called on us to follow him the same day he called on Peter. And we did, thinking that he would establish his kingdom here on earth, and we would be his right-hand men. Jesus calls John and I the sons of thunder. Actually, we're the sons of Zebedee, a rich and powerful man in this community who is the friend of some of the more influential religious leaders. At one time, I had hoped that this assured me of a position of power in the new kingdom. In fact, my mother suggested that I should be seated at Jesus' right hand when he claimed his throne, and John at his left. After all, it was we who were invited to the mountain with Jesus and saw him transfigured. His face shone like the sun, and the voice of God spoke from heaven. He chose me. He chose each of us. How could one of us betray him? We've all witnessed his perfect adherence to the law. We've all heard the voice of God say, "This is my son." We've all been present during countless miracles, healings, acts no mere man could accomplish. Could it be my brother John? Could it be me? Is it I?
I am Matthew, and before I became a disciple of Jesus, I worked for the Roman government collecting taxes. I used to take advantage of one of the perks of that job, skimming a little off the top for personal use. After knowing Jesus, I realized that I had sinned against my neighbors. I had taken advantage of those people. I had cheated them. I became a wealthy man by stealing their hard-earned wages and goods. I sought earthly treasures instead of eternal ones. Jesus has changed my heart. I even held a huge feast in my home and invited others from that corrupt organization to meet him and perhaps be changed as well. And now, Jesus speaks of a sinner among us, a traitor among this table. Will the others think of me and suspect me, a known politician, a sinner? Is it I?
Before Jesus called me, I was a member of the Zealots. We believe in God, and God alone rules over this holy nation of Israel, and we refuse to pay homage or taxes to any Roman governor. It goes against my nature, but Jesus teaches that God ordains all powers and governments on earth, allowing them to rule over us, and we should give them our due and treat them with respect. Since following the Christ, I have tried to channel my zeal into telling others about Jesus, God's Son, and reaching out to people for his kingdom. Is there a spy among us? A Roman, perhaps. How can any follower of Jesus question his power and authority? He is God. He is God. He is our King, and he is greater than any government. Could I somehow revert to my old ways? Could I, Simon, betray my King? Is it I?
Comes in the name of the Lord. I am known to some as Bartholomew, to others as Nathaniel. I've been a diligent student of the Scriptures and a disciple of John, the baptizer. My friend Philip told me about this Jesus of Nazareth, saying that he was the one of whom the prophets had spoken. At first I was skeptical. Jesus of Nazareth? Filthy, immoral place. How could anything good come out of Nazareth? But John said that Jesus was the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Then I met this Jesus. He seemed to know me already, to know my innermost thoughts. I've always been a devout man, but I recognized that Jesus offered something more intimate, more personal than my religion had ever done. For over 1,000 years, we have celebrated the Feast of the Passover, remembering the bitterness of slavery in Egypt with the bitter herbs, remembering the 10 plagues with the 10 drops from the goblet, remembering how the blood of the sacrificed lamb caused the angel of death to pass over the Israelites, sparing their firstborn. Remembering how God set his people free. That wonderful story. How when they fled, they had no time to bake leavened bread. So they baked unleavened bread in the warmth of the sun. Now Jesus breaks this unleavened bread and says, "This is my body." He shares the cup and says, "This is my blood. Do this in remembrance of me." I don't understand. How could anything make me betray my friend? Is it I, Lord?
My name is Philip. Jesus came to me one day while I was working and said simply, "Follow me." I spent an entire day with him and was convinced this is truly the promised one. It has taken some time for me to understand this fulfilled promise is actually God here among us. Recently, thousands of men and women, families, were sitting on a hillside listening to him teach. Jesus asked me where we could buy bread to feed them all. At once, I thought of only the actual, physical cost of such a venture. Why, our treasury does not hold such funds. I gave no thought to the people's discomfort or to the possibility of a divine miracle. But Jesus, he took 5 tiny pieces of bread and 2 tiny fish, prayed over them, and broke them into pieces. He fed thousands, and we collected 12 baskets of leftovers. God, here, among us, who would deny the promised one, this divine presence in our midst? And to whom would they deliver Jesus? To the vain and arrogant priests who refuse to believe God has kept his promise? Or to the pagan Roman government who fears a rival ruler? Could any one of us forget his power, his compassion? Could I forget? Is it I?
His hands, carpenter hands, rough, weathered hands, and yet so gentle and loving. His hands reached out and touched the leper, and the disease was erased from his body. His hands reached out and touched Peter's mother-in-law, and her fever disappeared. His hands lifted Jairus' daughter from her deathbed. His hands opened the ears of the deaf, the eyes of the blind, and mended the bones of the lame. His hands have cured countless infirmities, illnesses, and deformities. They're gone. His hands reached out, blessing the little children when others would have turned them away.
His hands reached down and saved Peter from the churning sea that surely would have swallowed him up. His hands, blessing and breaking bread, folded in prayer. Such simple gestures, and yet so profound. Those hands that have shown us mercy and kindness, love and healing. Those hands that have served me, Thaddeus, and all our brothers, and worshiped his Father. They are the hands of God. They are the hands of God in this very room. We've all received blessing from his hands. We've all seen the miracles his hands have performed. Who could betray him into the hands of an enemy? Would I, Thaddeus, betray you? Is it I?
I'm John, the beloved disciple. Beloved. Loved by Jesus. Loved by the one who is in the beginning with God. Loved by the one who's greater than all of us. And yet washes our feet, setting an example of humility and servitude. You might think that because Jesus calls me his beloved disciple, that I have reason to be proud. The opposite's true. I once thought that I might hold a position of power and prestige in his kingdom. But he has shown me over and over that the war he wages is a spiritual battle. He reaches out to the needy, paupers, not the rich and powerful. He dines in the homes of sinners and common folk, not the elite. I have seen him equally befriend a well-known Pharisee and an immoral woman for giving bold. God sent his Son because he loved the world, the lowly, me, so much. So much that he wants none of us to perish, but to live an everlasting life. This Jesus, he is the way, the truth. He is life. Even though we're his friends and followers, I don't think we truly understand him. I believe that he would give his life for mine. How could I not do the same? Will my pride cause me to stumble? Will I betray him? Could I? Is it I?
I've listened to Jesus speak at this table tonight, and I simply do not understand. Words of comfort met with confusion. Talk of betrayal met with incredulity and suspicion. Where is he going? There is so much to do right here, right now. Sometimes I marvel that I, Thomas, have seen the Lord with my own eyes. I have touched him with my own hands. I have watched him change lives and perform miracles. Where is he going? How can we follow him if we do not know where he is going? This betrayal that he speaks of, is there something that I will do or have done that will contribute to this? Has he seen my inner doubts, my fears? Is it I?
I'm Judas Iscariot, treasurer for this group. And I have followed Jesus, but I grow tired of his reluctance to take a stand against our Roman oppressors. I believe he is who he says he is. But why would God send a Messiah for this? To wash feet and serve bread? We have no need of a spiritual king. We need a political king. Someone to rise up and overthrow these Roman tyrants. Thousands of people follow him over mountains and across rivers just to hear him speak. Surely he could put together an army in no time. Something must be done to force him to make his move, to lead us to victory and usher in the new kingdom. Betrayer among us indeed. All these men, they look at one another around the table suspiciously, wondering, guessing, accusing, and they work inwardly. They ponder their own motivations. Yet why do they sit there like sheep awaiting a shepherd? Someone must do something, and I have. So tonight, the chief priests and the elders will help me to help him usher in the promised kingdom. Someone has betrayed him. Perhaps we may all do so before the night is through.